So I have a theory for our upcoming game that because it's a direct sequel to this game, we are going to get to see something that we have never seen in the entire Zelda series. And that is the reason why Link and Zelda never hook up through the entire timeline. They never get together. And I can say that because the line of the goddess and the line of the hero have always been separate. And I think there's a reason for that. These games are at the end of the timeline, yeah? Like as far down the timeline as we've ever gone. Link and Zelda are never related. Link is always like some outcast kind of character, you know. First game, the very first words that you hear are, "It's dangerous to go alone." So here's some random dude that's alone going on this adventure, right? Link to the past, Link and his uncle are living way outside of town, off on their own, secluded from everybody. They live closer to the castle than they do the rest of the people. So, you know, it's just the whole timeline. Link is always like this weird outsider. Ocarina of Time, he's just some weirdo that's living in the woods with the eternal children. It's like, he's not one of the Kikari. He's going to grow up eventually. They're not. He just happens to be living out in the woods with them. I think the reason that Link and Zelda never actually get together, together as part of Demise's curse from the original game. Okay. Demise cursed them to relive this never-ending cycle. And so this is going to be the first time in the series that we get to see what happens after the descendant of the Triforce of Power is overthrown. Like, directly what happens after. I think part of the curse is actually keeping the status quo and making sure that the cycle continues. Which, again, the symbol for Tears of the Kingdom is the double serpent looping back on itself. So I think that, along with the theory that they're going to like loop the timeline back to the beginning and like start the whole thing over again. But I think the endless cycle, we're actually going to see what happens afterwards that keeps the status quo and makes the cycle continue. So the rise of the descendant of power brings the descendant of wisdom and courage together in order to face him. Yeah? Well, if the descendants of wisdom and courage commingled, their descendant would then be the inheritor of both wisdom and courage, and immediately outmatch the descendant of power, because you've got two pieces of the Triforce versus one. So I think part of Demise's original curse, while the rise of the descendant of power brings wisdom and courage descendants together, I think the defeat of that descendant of power also leads to events that split them apart. Because Zelda's line is always the line of the goddess. She's always royalty. It's always, you know, the descendant of the descendant of the descendant, right? Link is always some dude, you know, just happens to be there. But I think that's what we're going to see in Tears of the Kingdom, is something that we've never seen before, is the aftermath of what happens directly after the descendant of power is overthrown or defeated or sealed away. What happens to the representatives of wisdom and courage after they save the world, you know? But I do think that in order to maintain the status quo and to not have a descendant that would immediately overpower the descendant of power, something happens because of the curse that will separate Link and Zelda so that they can't have a kid together, or that they can't, merge the bloodlines in any way. So the name Tears of the Kingdom, I think, are going to be the tears that are cried for the loss of Zelda. But that's just a theory. A game theory. No. Yeah, so that's, in a nutshell, that's my idea for what's going to happen in the Tears of the Kingdom. We're going to see, legitimately, I think Tears of the Kingdom is the third game in a trilogy. Skyward Sword being the first game, Breath of the Wild being the second game, and then Tears of the Kingdom being the third game and the climax. We very well may see the resurrection of Demise himself, because what was left of his consciousness was sealed away in the Master Sword at the end of Skyward Sword. What has been the big thing that we have seen so far in Tears of the Kingdom is the absolute, ruination of the Master Sword. It's dissolved, it's disintegrated, there's nothing left. So what if whatever is left of Demise is finally freed from the blade that seals the darkness? You dig? And so we'll get to see finally either the end or the beginning of this never-ending cycle. But yeah, I think we're in for a very big story element style game with Tears of the Kingdom. I think they're going to tie in a lot of stuff, and I've got some rough ideas about what's going on. Like the Zonai is the real big buzzword that everybody's talking about. Who are these, Aztec styled architecture kind of people? Who are these warrior race? I legitimately think they're Link's race. They're the people that Link hail from. So I think in the scheme of things, we have most of Hyrule is, descendant from the goddess, yeah? Then we have the Zonai, who, a very mysterious race, but they're a warrior race. And who is the fighter in the story? It's Link. And we never really know where he comes from. He never really fits in with anybody. So what if he is the deal? It's okay, the Zonai are actually, the tribe of courage, where most of the Hylians are the tribe of wisdom, and then the Gerudo are the tribe of power, that sort of thing. I think we're going to get a ton of Zelda lore and a lot of questions answered. But I also think it's going to leave a lot of story elements open for us to explore later. Yeah, see, the most predominant Zonai stuff is in the very greenest area. Triforce of Courage is typically linked with the color green and Link. Yeah, I really do. I heavily think just via the color options that they've chosen. in this game in particular, Link loses his traditional green garb, and they put him in blue. Crap, that's a Lionel. I don't quite a Lionel. But yeah, so Link is in blue instead of his traditional green at the beginning of this game. Again, going with the symbol that they used for Tears of the Kingdom, that symbol is not just an unending cycle, but it's also like a symbol of rebirth and rediscovery, like kind of a self-improvement thing. So I'm thinking they may be leaning into that, where the Zonai are actually the tribe that Link descends from, because he is always like such a mysterious character to begin with. But I think, again, the Zonai being primarily in the greener areas of the world in this game, as well as Link not being his traditional self in this game, like being blue instead of green. I am wondering if the entire game of Tears of the Kingdom is going to be Link rediscovering his roots as the descendant of heroes, because this is set so far in the future that I think a lot of that tradition may have been lost. So you have the Sheikah, who are the tribe of wisdom, really, and they keep close to the royal family. You have the Zonai, who are the tribe of courage and, warrior tribe. They're the ones that keep the knight's line true, which is one of those lines from Link to the Past that I love so much. And then the Gerudo, who are the tribe of power. Their role that they play in all this. That would be just me speculating, putting a whole bunch of stuff together that may or may not actually work.